Story 1. I believe we create our own purpose in life. It is something we choose, not something handed to us. In my 20s, I was eager to change the world and help people. However, over time, that spark faded. Watching corporate and political greed run rampant and witnessing the endless stupidity of humanity wore me down. I no longer have that same drive to change the world. Now, my only goal is to build a quiet, peaceful life for myself and the people I care about. That is it, and honestly, that is enough. Your purpose does not have to be some grand, world-changing mission. It can be as simple and personal as you want it to be. Story 2. We are all here to learn about life, ourselves, and each other. Try to enjoy the journey while you are at it. Story 3. Purpose looks different for everyone. For me, it became clear when everything I cared about started pointing in the same direction. My values, skills, and sense of responsibility all came together around something real. It didn't happen all at once. It came in stages. Life moves in chapters, and purpose can shift as you do. That doesn't make it less powerful in the moment. For me, that purpose became my brother, Ben. Ben has one of the rarest progressive neurological conditions ever documented. Over the years, it took away his ability to speak, walk, and eventually use his hands. While I was living across the country, building a career and chasing things that looked like success, he was home, slowly deteriorating. Through it all, he somehow stayed joyful. That contrast hit me hard, and I began questioning what I was really doing with my life. At one point, I began filming a documentary about him. Then the pandemic hit and things got much worse. He became malnourished, started having seizures, and we could see how quickly things were going downhill. My wife and I decided to move back to my home state. We rented a place nearby and started seeing him every day. We got involved in his care, helped push for a feeding tube, worked with him on basic mobility, and slowly things started to improve. After the pandemic, we talked seriously about moving back across the country and picking up where we left off. But deep down, we knew we had to stay near Ben. So we did. Eventually, we used our savings to buy and fully renovate a home designed for his needs. Provided him a place where he could feel safe and supported. He came for one weekend, then another, and eventually decided to stay for good. He has been living with us ever since. These last few years have been the most meaningful of my life. His condition continues to progress, but so does his happiness. We do everything we can to make his life feel full. One of the most important things for me was communication. Ben lost his voice as a teenager, and by his early 20s, he could no longer use his hands. Because of his eye condition, eye tracking systems were not an option. For years, all he could do was answer yes or no by turning his head slightly. We tried every communication system we could find, but nothing worked. So I built something myself. Using advanced technology and a lot of testing, I created a system where Ben uses two head-mounted buttons to interact with a custom interface. The left button scans through options, and the right button selects them. With just those two inputs, he can type using a predictive keyboard, choose preset phrases, and fully control his tablet. I built a full menu with all of his favorite shows, which he now opens and watches on his own. I also created a trivia game to challenge his knowledge about things he loves, along with several other custom games he plays regularly. He has reached a level of independence we never thought would be possible after losing so much. That system is the thing I am most proud of. I do not know what the next chapter holds, but this one feels right. It is rooted in care, patience, and purpose. If sharing our story can help even one other family feel less alone, then it matters. Story 4. Why do you need to find a purpose in life? How do you define purpose? Is have as much fun as I can until I eventually die a purpose? Story 5. I have children. My purpose became to raise them to be better people than I am. Mission accomplished. My new purpose is to live long enough to be an inconvenience to them. Story 6. I lost everything and sank to the very bottom. On my way back to becoming a real person again, I had a lot of time to think about what I truly want out of life. I'm aiming for my dreams to come true, and without anything holding me back. I believe in myself and I will make them happen. My past does not define my future. Story 7. Someone once told me to leave things better than when you found them, and that applies to everything, no matter how small. I believe that if you strive to live a simple life with that principle in mind, by the time you leave this world, you will have made it a better place, and that's a commendable purpose in my view. Story 8. Existentialists create their own purpose. Egoists are their own purpose. Nihilists deny purpose. Utilitarians seek the greater good as their purpose. Deontologists follow the rules, as the rules are their purpose. Christians read the Bible as their purpose. Politicians should serve their country as their purpose. Business people earn money as their purpose. Story 9. Honestly, I didn't. I think God just hit randomize on the character creation screen, dropped me into the server with zero instructions, and now I'm just here trying not to get logged out permanently. Sure, people say find your purpose. But where? Is it behind the couch? Under my bed? In my junk email folder? I've checked. All I found was anxiety and a half-eaten granola bar. So now I've decided my purpose is to vibe, eat good food, and make questionable life choices, and hopefully not get punished in the process. Story 10. I don't think you find a singular purpose in life. You acquire a set of purposes that are aligned in roughly the same direction, and you work towards them. Along the way, you discover new purposes that align with your direction and reject those you initially thought would be aligned. Story 11. I'm supposed to have found my purpose? I am 40 years old, and every time I think I have found it, life slaps me with a big no. Story 12. Ask yourself what you can do for society. A purpose in life can be too vague and create unnecessary anxiety. Most of the time, it helps to try out things that seem interesting as hobbies. If you don't find work in it, it at least creates meaning for you. We create our own meaning. Story 13. Interpreting underwear stains is akin to reading tea leaves, particularly for individuals living in trailers. Story 14. I agree that it is about the journey, but for me, the journey cannot exist without destinations. I have a purpose as long as I have goals that I have not yet achieved. There are projects I want to realize, topics I want to study, things I want to create, and languages I want to learn. Among these goals, I have the grand desire to change the world. However, I am 20. I might lose the spark like the person in the top comment, but as long as I also have these smaller, more personal goals, I still have my purpose. At least my life will have purpose for me. Story 15. The same way as Edgar. Story 16. I didn't find it. I'm still figuring it out one mistake at a time. Perhaps that is the purpose. To continue growing and exploring. Story 17. Heard someone say life is not about finding your purpose or the meaning of life, but about what gives your life meaning and purpose. For me, it was exercise and competing. As I've gotten older, I have enjoyed volunteering for the United Service Organizations and other military organizations. Story 18. By being yourself. Sounds cliche and annoying, but that's literally it. I have been alone for a long time, which led me to seek things that make my life happier. So I discovered fashion and baking. Spending time with friends is enjoyable, but understanding what I like and who I am makes my life better. Story 19. Thank you for making this thread title. I have struggled to find real purpose and deep fulfillment my whole life. I guess I will share my story here. 8 years ago, I was 29 years old and unemployed, just drifting through life day by day. It was a Sunday afternoon when I suddenly received a phone call from my cousin, who I hadn't spoken to in quite some time. She was teaching in Thailand and asked if I would like to try teaching English there. I was a little reluctant at first, as I had never been overseas before. I decided to take the jump and do it. I had to be there in 5 days to secure the job. Unbeknownst to me, I actually found my true inner purpose and deep fulfillment in life. Unfortunately, that didn't last forever, as I had to leave Thailand in April last year due to exhausting all my teaching license waivers. Determined not to give up and end up in the same place I was before, stuck and purposeless in South Africa, I spontaneously jumped on a plane from Thailand to Vietnam. I had planned to go to Vietnam through an agency called Work in Vietnam Team. It was all lovely until the first week of arriving in Vietnam when I faced challenges. I did not get my first job, which is life, and I accepted that. However, everything went downhill from there. I paid the agency $600 for their services, so I didn't just go to Vietnam expecting it to provide for me. I thought I had systems in place, but I would gain a few steps forward, then fall back significantly. Eventually, I ran out of finances and had to return home at the end of August 2024. So I essentially spent about a 5-month vacation in Vietnam. I apologize for this long message, but it feels nice to explain my story to whoever reads this. I am now 37 and, in a way, back at square one in my life, feeling defeated and as if I can never regain that sense of purpose again. Thank you to anyone who takes the time to read this. Story 20. Short, boring answer that doesn't apply to everyone else? Religion. Longer, more general answer. Life isn't about the destination. It's about the journey. Whatever keeps you moving today is your purpose. Having something to strive for or work towards, even if it's minimal, is important. It could be a long-term goal like saving for your first home or something minor like a hobby, completing a video game, achieving all the accomplishments, finishing a painting, or improving a particular skill. Once you reach one goal, you find the next one and then the next. In the meantime, don't forget to appreciate the world around you. Enjoy the moment, spend time with the ones you love, and strive to make the world a better place, even in the tiniest ways. If there's even one person out there who's happy you're alive or appreciative of you, you're doing good. Story 21. Religion. It is easy to see the path I want and how to achieve it. I have plans to pursue, not just dreams. I can accomplish them all, and I have already started some. How? With God's help and guidance. I am forever grateful. Story 22. I watched The Lord of the Rings when I was 12 and going through a difficult time in my life. A seed was planted, and I have had a constant yearning and desire to make films ever since. Things did not improve. I am chronically ill and unable to work, which makes it challenging to pursue my dream. It hurts. Story 23. One day when I was 21, an acquaintance of mine, a realtor, asked me if I was interested in taking ballroom dance lessons. I'm kind of spontaneous, so I said, sure, why not? Ever since then, I have dedicated my life to studying partner dance. It hasn't been an easy road at all, but it has filled my life with more meaning and purpose than even a family could give me. Just my story, but facts. Story 24. Do what you love. You do not have to do something great. Just focus on what you are satisfied with. Story 25. My purpose in life is to try to do as little harm as possible and to be friendly and helpful to most people, especially those who need help the most. I believe that giving up drugs significantly helped me find this purpose. Story 26. It fell into my hands. It was a business idea that, by all accounts, should have failed. I remained committed to it when everyone else said I would go bankrupt. Story 27. I was a problematic kid with poor grades, spending my childhood playing video games. During high school holidays, I worked for around €3 per hour, which was a tough job that made me question, are you going to work your whole life like that for such little money? I got myself together, improved my grades, went to university, and now have a great job, my own apartment, a good car, and I no longer look at prices in stores. I buy what I like. I'm not a rich person, but I have more than enough. Story 28. None of us are getting out of here alive. Enjoy yourself. All the other things, jobs, mortgages, and so on, are administrative tasks and distractions from that core. Story 29. Within 2 years, I will reach my 30s, and I still do not have a main purpose in life. I will just get on with it. It is what it is. I will focus on the first 24 hours and always appreciate what I already have because it is very easy to lose everything. Story 30. Take note of what does not feel like your life's purpose. Also, consider what makes you feel that life is worth living by analyzing why certain paths resonate with you. Examine why you dislike certain paths and whether it stems from your values or your fears. Fears are not necessarily a bad thing to experience. They exist for a reason. Lastly, test and try different paths. That is honestly the best we can do. There is no definitive formula for figuring out how to live your life. Story 31. I think my biggest role has been as a dad. I've been with my wife for a total of 14 years. We have been together since we were 15 and married 3 years ago. We are 7 months into her pregnancy, expecting our first child over the summer. Besides being each other's support, I have never felt a stronger motivation to improve myself than I do now, knowing I have this responsibility. In essence, it found me and gave me purpose. Story 32. Do you have enough time to find a life purpose between the moment you were pushed off the cliff and when you hit the rocks? Story 33. I asked the universe during a deep meditation with high-frequency music and the assistance of plant medicine, what is my purpose? To exist. Story 34. By experiencing life itself, I realized that I am 26 years old and working in a corporate job. All I wanted was to enjoy life, but now I crave a deeper sense of purpose. I am planning to attend medical school. I imagine myself participating in a medical mission in a rural region of the Philippines. Just thinking about it makes me feel more alive. Story 35. Right now, my purpose in life is to give my grandchildren the happiest childhood possible. I love watching them grow and learn. However, it's tinged with sadness knowing what awaits them as adults. I believe the least I can do is make every moment we spend together a happy time for all of us. My daughter says we're spoiling them, and I tell her there's no such thing as loving someone too much. Story 36. I can suggest some life purposes for people who may not have one yet. Always make sure you're inspiring the right people, but also live and let live. The world would be a much better place if more people's life purpose was to spread kindness and understanding. Story 37. I didn't find purpose. For me, that's another one of those man-made constructs that aims to justify our existence by putting us into boxes and providing explanations for everything and everyone. That said, I believe human life has a purpose. To grow constantly, gain knowledge, spread knowledge, get to know ourselves, and love ourselves. When we achieve a conscious understanding of ourselves, we can then start loving the world and others, giving back what we found within and gaining connections along the way. This can change each other's worlds, sometimes with nothing more than being beside someone in silence. I am an individual with both good and bad characteristics, but I am first and foremost a fellow human being. Story 38. I still don't have a purpose and I'm 33. It's one of the things I discussed with my therapist. Maybe this great life purpose is just a shared delusion. I realized I don't need to have a grand purpose. Having a project to work on, a goal, is what works for me. Story 39. I found purpose in my life by paying close attention to what consistently brought me a sense of meaning, not just happiness. It started with asking myself what activities made me feel most alive and useful. Over time, I realized that helping others grow, contributing to something larger than myself, and staying curious were key to my fulfillment. It wasn't a sudden revelation, but a gradual journey shaped by experiences, values, and reflection. Now, I strive to align my daily actions with these deeper motivations, whether through work, relationships, or learning. Story 40. My grandmother's dementia diagnosis changed everything. Caring for her revealed the flaws in our elderly care system. I am now developing technology solutions to help families coordinate care. Your purpose often emerges from your deepest struggles. Story 41. In the broadest terms, the purpose of life is to live and experience the magic and wonder of being human. Story 42. I believe that life has no inherent purpose. The idea of a hero born to vanquish evil by divine command is just a myth. Most people live without a clear purpose. Paradoxically, the act of creating meaning in a purposeless life becomes its own purpose. Story 43. A tick disease caused me to contract Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and I was transported by ambulance. Here I am many years later as a paramedic. Story 44. I became a Christian in my early 40s. Speaking from experience, understanding my true purpose as a follower of Jesus is much more real and fulfilling than attempting to create my own purpose, which I tried to do in my 20s and 30s. Story 45. Humans have no purpose except to destroy. It is our destiny to destroy ourselves along with most other species and habitats. Story 46. Completely by accident. I was working a challenging office job when I started teaching art to children on weekends for extra income. The joy on their faces when they created something beautiful changed everything. Story 47. One day, I cleaned my entire place instead of finishing a work task. Then I took a shower and went to finish work. I went to the other room and forgot what I was looking for, but I am still okay with that. Story 48. I have had many purposes, averaging about 2 to 3 each year consistently for the last 20 years. It usually starts with a random thought that turns into an obsessive fixation. I either achieve or fail my purpose, or more likely, I get distracted finding a new one. Rinse and repeat. Story 49. Honestly, I struggled a lot in the early phase of my career, confused, rushing into things, trying to fit into roles that didn't feel aligned. Over time, I realized I didn't need to force anything. I just had to slow down and listen to myself. As someone who has always been extroverted and creative, I naturally found joy in expressing ideas, connecting with people, and telling stories. That's how I stumbled into marketing, not as a calculated decision, but as a natural extension of who I am. The more I explored it, the more it felt like home. It gave me the space to blend creativity, communication, and strategy, things I genuinely enjoy. At the same time, I also got into devotion and meditation, which brought immense clarity and peace. While marketing connects me with the world, devotion connects me with myself. Together, they help me stay grounded and purposeful. Meditation helped me slow down, reflect, and understand what truly fulfills me, not just externally, but internally. For me, finding purpose has been less about chasing and more about aligning with my nature, my joy, and my inner truth. When I started doing that, everything else began to fall into place. Story 50. Read existential philosophy to understand that there is no inherent purpose in life except for the purpose we assign to it. We have the radical freedom to choose whatever purpose we desire for ourselves. Story 51. Do you need a purpose in life? I am happy just doing what I want and enjoying time with my wife. I do not care about leaving a legacy or making an impact on the world or people. Story 52. The moment when David plugged the telephone into the acoustic coupler from War Games in 1983. I didn't become a hacker, but that definitely drove me into information technology. Story 53. Our daughter came into our lives, and I knew my life would be dedicated to paving the way for her because she is worth it. Story 54. Explore. Don't be static. Keep moving, and eventually, you will find something you like and stick with it. Story 55. By experiencing something awful, my experiences could serve as a testimony to help another person. As terrible as it was, it could not have been for nothing. Story 56. By experiencing something terrible, if my experiences could serve as a testimony to help another person, then as awful as it was, it could not have been for nothing. Story 57. Volunteering will lead you in the right direction if you find a good outlet, such as a soup kitchen, fire department, or Salvation Army. Just help others. If you are into religion, the teachings of Jesus remind me of my purpose whenever I feel lost. Story 58. I realized I don't need one. I'm terminally ill and retired at 49. I only ever work to live, and I've become comfortable with the fact that I'm entitled to dignity without needing recognition of my accomplishments from others. I'm a good father and a good partner, and that's all a man needs to be. Story 59. As an introverted child with high-functioning autism, I needed a way to entertain myself while socially isolated. So I started creating characters and stories in my mind. I wrote prose, comic book scripts, screenplays, music, game scripts, and game mechanics that serve the narrative. My purpose in life is to tell stories in whatever medium I believe fits, mostly for myself, and if others enjoy what I create, that's great too. Story 60. School taught me to be men and women for others, and I followed that mantra. It's a great way to live. It's not always easy, and it's not always appreciated, but it's a way of life I try to follow. Story 61. 1. I started working on my trauma and became more self-reflective. I was prepared to transform my life and embrace change. I became realistic instead of having unrealistic dreams. I put more effort into hobbies and found a fulfilling career that brings me joy. I wrote down all the things I wanted to do, see, or learn, and crossed off many of them to focus on those I could achieve in my lifetime. This approach helped reduce procrastination and overwhelm. I learned to communicate with my loved ones and grew closer to them. I distanced myself from people I didn't trust and who made me feel unsafe, and I stopped engaging in activities that negatively affected me. I started learning new things out of curiosity. Story 62. Wait, were we supposed to find one? I need to write that down. Something new to keep up with, just what I need. I'm just trying to survive. And these people are discussing purpose. Story 63. I reached one of my lowest points. If you slightly adjust your perspective while you're feeling down, it's amazing what you can discover. You just have to look for it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.